What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us today. Gonna get a little bit of a recap of last night's game. But first, I wanted to just say, we're in week 2 of the season, and, it's gonna start moving fast. But we need to sit back and enjoy every bit of it because last night we had a wonderful game. We had much more scoring than we've seen last week. It was really, really much better, and there was some concern. Last week's scores, 15-13, 10-16, 17-36, 16-23, relatively low scoring or tempered scoring throughout all the games. But week 2 has not disappointed. So we started off really with some high scoring games. And then when we look at kind of the recap, just some of the stats, time of possession, surprisingly, Columbus had the ball more often than DC, but that was more a result of DC going, taking the ball, scoring in 5 plays, and, they did what they needed to and got off the field. Whereas Columbus could not get off the field. I swear, they couldn't finish drives. It was kind of tough. Yardage relatively close, so this game actually seemed a lot closer than the box score kind of gives us a look at. Yards per play, though, this is at 6.6. DC was effective. They got on the field, they moved the ball, they scored, they got off the field. Aviators put together some drives, but they also had a bunch of drives that were just kind of shite. But then we had pass yards, much better on the Aviators than DC because Tamu threw an interception, and then it seemed like we kind of drew down the passing for DC. But McClendon really went out there and did pretty well. Throwing the ball a lot more often, didn't get as many yards, of course, but rushing is really where the difference was made in this game. We had 229 yards out of the defenders. It was an impressive game for everyone on that team, I'd say. Defense maybe could have used some work. But the rushing yards for the Aviators, really, that's where the concern is. If you can't run the ball, you're not going to be able to do anything, take any pressure off that quarterback. So kind of tough, but average rush yards, pretty much the same. So that was surprising. They just tried to do it a lot less, and they couldn't get as much movement on the ball. But really, this game, self-inflicted issues. Turnovers, 4 on the Aviators, 3 on the defenders. 1 was an interception, couple fumbles. Turnovers for the Aviators were 1 interception. That was it was, end of the half, so it didn't really matter. But mostly self-inflicted issues. So if we could look at some more of these stats, we'll look at kind of passing, completions, so better, I'd say, given that there were less passes, for the defenders. They really were catching the ball, but the Aviators were very pass-heavy, and there was a lot of miscommunication, and that's why you see this 3.2 yards per attempt for them. So not the best showing, I'd say, out of the wide receiver room for the Aviators, but there is room for improvement. Rushing yards, they did all right. They just need to get more consistent, and that's where, a lot of the DC scoring was through rushing. We had a pretty balanced scoring for the Aviators. But ultimately, what was moving them down the field was the passing game. So it was just kind of a inconsistent offensive approach, let's say, on Friday night for the Aviators. Then when we go to defense, sacks, really the defense was killing them. Really was putting a hampering on them. Tackles for loss as well. Pass deflections, the defenders' defense really swarmed them and kind of ate them alive. Then when we look at our turnovers, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions on the Aviators, and then 1 interception, 2 fumbles. So really, ball security, big issue. That was something Coach was talking about after last week. But when we look at the box score, it looked kind of at some passing comparison. So we had about 99 yards, 8 of those completions, 1 interception, 1 touchdown. So it was all right, 92 QBR, so pretty good. McClendon they were riding him. So it was a lot of the game was really riding on the quarterback. So he kind of carried the Aviators through most of the game, at least offensively. So not as good of a completion percentage, and of course 1 interception. So 78 QBR, not terrible, but we'd like to see that kind of step up. And we look at our rushing, Mr. Jackson really made a name for himself. 97 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think either tied the record or set the record for rushing touchdowns. But then what is really concerning for Columbus is the number one rusher was McClendon. So you don't want your quarterback taking all those hits. He did get a touchdown, so that was nice. But what is, offensively, what's the long-term plan there? He can't run the ball every time. I understand we're doing a lot of options, so maybe that's just how the defense was going, but that would lead me to concern because if he gets injured, then who comes in? Then we got Totala. He did pretty well, but I'd like to see all three of the running backs really could do well. They just need to either find a better split or something needs to be done there because each of these running backs really, really could be a number one, but they just kind of got to find the one they want to be their number one or the situations that work best for each of them. Then Tomu also got some yards, but you really don't want to see your quarterbacks out running that much. Hopefully your backs can kind of do it. For receiving, Powell really did well. No tuds. Mr. Moore did get the one tud that was thrown, but then when we look at the Columbus, Martin was pretty much their main receiver. Wells did get a few catches, but Martin really the one that kind of made his name. Oaks, tight end, really could have made a bigger name for himself, but he did kind of miss a few, half of his catches or half of his passes he missed. So that's something not really sustainable there. And then defense, it was pretty evenly matched. The thing is the defenders team went back to the championship standard that they were. So the defense was the one that kind of set that tone. If you look at all these tackles and sacks, they really were kind of wreaking havoc on Columbus. So not the best for them. But then when you look at the Columbus team, they were okay. There were times their defense did well. But it was just really, really inconsistent. And that's where I feel like, at least for Columbus, that's where either that needs to get better or the offense needs to get better because both cannot be inconsistent. So you got to be worried if you are Coach Ginn. But looking over kind of at some other stuff that we've got, he said ball security, 4 fumbles, ball security, ball security, ball security. That's all they should be talking about is ball security. Then you look at Deion Jackson. Really, really impressive job. 126 total yards, 3 rushing tuds. Might have set the record for the league. Honestly, an impressive showing. And if we look here, takes it right in. Next one. Takes it right in. Busts one. Breaks it open. I think you'll be seeing a lot of him this year. I think you really will. Then we continue on. Gavin DeGraw, our halftime show, really, really went over well. And I think, at home, the experience was nice. And I think that's something that really improved from last week is they kind of tailored the, at least what we were seeing on the show or on TV was more oriented for a TV audience rather than kind of being like just filming the crowd as it was in the first week. And it seems Six String Mama also enjoyed it as well. So really a good showing for Friday Night Football. And I think if this continues all season, we as fans are really in for a treat. And this might be our biggest hit of the weekend. So I'll just let you guys watch it. But you see here, and boom! Tough. Real tough. So it was a big hit, and I that was kind of, if you could encapsulate how the game was for the Columbus Aviators, that video kind of sums it up. For Matt McCrane, really did well. If we look back at our special teams, if we can get there, kick return, punt return, kicking. Matt McCrane, 3 for 3 on field goals. Got the special teams player. Was special teams player of the week last week. Only made one of his field goals, missed the other one, made 3, all 3 of them this week. So ultimately, he did much better this week, and I think he may be in the running to receive this honor again. But we'll have to see how the rest of the weekend plays out. But looking back at last week, specifically at the defenders, losing to the Battlehawks, and I'm going to almost chalk that up to them kind of having some rust from the offseason. Really the first game that team had played together. So I expect when or if they do play again, it'll be a much either more competitive matchup or a kind of flipping or turning of the tables. But we'll have to see exactly how this plays out for them. But we will see if and when these two match up, how the game goes. Then looking out, Columbus showed out. I'm really impressed. The Ohio hungry for football. It is new to the city, but really there was a lot of people there, and it was highly attended. So Columbus, this is literally what we want to see so far. Louisville and Columbus have really shown out for the new cities, and almost I don't know if it's venue based or what, but definitely done better than what we were seeing, at least out of Memphis and San Antonio and even Michigan last season. So a good step. There is still some concern for the Storm, but ultimately I would say that we're moving in the right direction. The energy this season feels strong, and we're really, it's starting to feel like a better product. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. I know we're coming up on some different networks, NFL Network specifically, so we'll see how everything shakes out. But so far, I think the UFL is making major strides. And I really do expect to see spring football around for a while. The defense on Columbus, we did have 2 sacks out of Ron Stone last week. Not as great this week, but ultimately that defense can keep them in the game. And now looking at the power rankings the league put out this last week, just wanted to do a little speculation. So defenders are going to move up. So if you were to look at the standings right now, they'd probably be sitting under the 1-0 teams just because they all haven't played their second game. But depending on how this goes, let's say the Battlehawks lose or the Stallions lose or the Storm lose, I could see the defenders in the top 3, I'd expect, for next week. Aviators, probably going to end up sitting exactly where they're at, but we will see kind of how that all plays out for them. There are some questions that remain. Then looking at our next game coming up, this will be tonight, Saturday, April 4th at 8 p.m. On ESPN. We've got the Storm with the Kings visiting. So should be a good matchup. The Storm looked competitive last week. Also, Louisville did. And when you put together that offense, that's where I really think you're going to start to see at least on the Louisville side, a much more competitive game. So I expect this one to be high scoring, just like yesterday's was. So ultimately, going to be something to look forward to. So our Saturday game, really going to be a good one. The skirmish on Sunday, we'll see how this one plays out. It could end up being a Stallion dominating performance by the Stallions, or the Gamblers could show up and kind of shock the rest of the league by taking down AJ McCarron and his Stallions. But this Tuesday tussle really going to be that game of the week for us. Look forward to that. We're going to see two of the best teams, at least based on their week 1 performance, going head to head. So I would say that's a game to watch out for. But then looking ahead, kind of at our schedule. We're on NFL Network, FS1, so definitely some newer games and some questions do arise there. How is that broadcast going to be? I imagine you just see the same ESPN broadcast on NFL Network, so I don't expect too many changes, but ultimately that location change could lead to some viewership number changes, so I wouldn't be too alarmed there, but I did want to look ahead and kind of take a look at some of the lines for what we got coming up. So our game today, line's at 1.5. I think that's a reasonable line, but ultimately I do expect, I'd take the Kings at 1.5. I would, plus. And then over under 39, I expect probably going to hit the over based on how yesterday's game went. So I do expect that to happen. Then when we look at the next game, our Sunday game, 7.5, that spread ain't changed. Probably take the Stallions. I'd probably stick with my pick from yesterday, and then our Battlehawks and Renegades. But let's actually take a look at some of these some of the player expectations. Let's say. So our TD scores, probably best odds. Let's say is Corbin. Unlikely, I'd say. Well, maybe It's hard to say. Jason Bean at 125, I definitely take that. For yards, Plummer over under 225. Or over under 250. I'd say he's probably going to be somewhere around the 220, probably but under 250 is what I'd say. Jason Bean probably going to be close to that 250 number. It might be smart to take the over. Then receiving, KJ Hamler, 75 plus, seems high. Lucky seems got also 75. I'd take them both on the under on that. Then our rushing, Corbin, no wonder he's got the best scoring odds. I'd say at 80 yards each, over under, I'm probably taking the under on both Benny Snell and Joshua Corbin. So those that are interested, there are definitely some picks out there that could be made. But we're sitting about 7 hours till kickoff, so we should have a good time ahead of us. But for everyone else, I expect a good weekend of football. So I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for joining us today. We'll be in for a awesome week of the UFL, and I expect nothing but the best out of at least the Kings Storm tonight. We'll see how the Stallions and Gamblers game goes, but this Battlehawks Renegades matchup really going to be great. We'll talk more about that on Overreaction Monday. But otherwise, thank you all for joining us. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Don't forget to like and subscribe and put those notifications on so you can join us each time we go live. Otherwise, have a wonderful weekend. Bye now.